All right, good afternoon, everyone. I think some people are still going to trickle in, but we'll get started with the afternoon session. I'm Kara Sawyer. I'm one of the board members of Survivor Journeys. I'm also a nurse practitioner. I work with Jay, Dr. Burton, and I'm also a cancer survivor. I had a stem cell transplant 8 years ago myself. So welcome, everyone. We're going to get going on the afternoon speakers, which we have a great lineup. So our first speaker is Judy Kasey Houlette, Executive Director for the Friend for Life Cancer Support Network. And she's going to be speaking to the topic of mentoring and how that can help cancer survivors and their caregivers through treatment and beyond. And it's a hugely important topic because us cancer survivors certainly can't do this journey alone. So, in order to move forward and continue to plug along and do things like Larry Lucchino went on to do, we need the support of our caregivers and mentors and people who have walked in our shoes. So welcome to Judy.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'm curious about you. Who here are cancer survivors? How about caregivers? Any healthcare professionals? Okay, so a good mix. So yes, I am Judy Kasey Houlette. I'm the director of Friend for Life Cancer Support Network. I'm also a cancer survivor of almost 24 years. And for a proceed, Friend for Life Cancer Support Network was founded 31 years ago, and we provide one-on-one peer support from cancer survivors to people recently diagnosed and also to caregivers for any form of cancer. And if I do my job well today, you will end up being able to identify the benefits of peer mentoring for people with cancer, and that is both patients and caregivers, and many of you may play both roles. For for people with cancer, that also includes particular benefits for special populations, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means, who those folks are. Benefits for peer mentors themselves, benefits for providers, and also at the end, why training and support of peer mentors is so essential. So first of all, what is a peer mentor? Peer mentors are used all across the spectrum of situations. You can be in education, you can be in doing research, whatever. We love to have mentors because they're experienced in their fields, and when you're newly beginning a particular field, it's great to talk to somebody who's been doing this for a while so you maybe don't make the mistakes that they've made and you can learn from their experience. So in this context, a peer mentor is someone who has experienced cancer personally, either as a patient or caregiver, and they use their experience to help others. So why do we need peer mentors? And I chose that image because it represents to me, this is your life as you're going forward. You see this clear path with blue skies, and all of a sudden you're diagnosed with cancer, and that shatters everything. At least to me, this is what it felt like, and to a number of the people that we provide support to and to our peer mentors. It's so overwhelming to hear that you have cancer, you're facing treatment, you don't know any of the language, you're scared about money, you're scared about what am I going to tell my mom? What am I going to tell my kids? How am I going to manage all this? And at the center of that, I'm going to die soon. And these are some quotes I'm going to include throughout from people, both our peer mentors and people to whom we've provided support. These came through the next couple of quotes are people that came to us for support. And the one wrote, "I feel the need to talk to some my family cannot handle. I have cancer. I'm new to all of this. There are not any support groups near me. I have no family nearby. I would like someone to talk to." So one instance, they have family, but the family can't deal with it. The other one, they have no means of support nearby. And so scientific research has shown, there was a study published last year by the Journal of Psychosocial Oncology that examined psychosocial distress among 55 cancer centers across North America, and they found that of 4,664 cases, 46% experienced significant distress with a distress thermometer score of greater than or equal to 4. Are you all familiar? How many know about the distress thermometer? That's something that's been used more recently to, when you're going through cancer care, they try to assess your level of distress at any given moment along your treatment journey. So that's a way they're trying to get, the clinicians are trying to get a better sense of how much stress you're under at any given moment. Do you need additional support? And I think part of that's a challenge, because when you're going through it, it's such a roller coaster for many of us. You'll be doing fine one moment and falling apart the next. So it depends on what moment you take the distress thermometer. And what are the consequences? If you don't meet the needs of somebody who's having psychosocial distress, what difference does that make? Well, a big difference. So you can have impaired cognitive function. Your thinking can get messed up. There's an expression called emotion floods cognition. So when you hear cancer, you have cancer, everything goes out the window. You can't think straight, and then you're being asked to make all these decisions. It can mess up your immune system. It can create, and this is related to not being able to think clearly or make good decisions. You may delay treatment. We had somebody come to us recently where they got very depressed and were just continued to put off the initial treatment, and the caregiver came to us for help. You may start your treatment but not keep it up. You may start your tamoxifen or whatever, but because of the side effects, it's too stressful, you're going to stop. So and that has consequences. So increased mortality and decreased overall quality of life. So what are some benefits of peer mentoring? And here I'm talking about one-to-one. Peer mentoring also exists in support groups, which are fantastic, but I'm talking mainly about one-to-one matched peer mentoring. It's accessible. All you need is a phone, maybe internet access for email, but at the heart of it, all you need is a telephone to be put in touch with somebody who's been through something that you're facing. It's tailored. As we've gone through over the years, I've been with Friend for Life 20 years. We used to match kind of general cancer to general cancer. Now we can match for any number of specifics. We know more about the diagnosis and treatments we're having, so we're better able to match for specifics of diagnosis and specifics of treatment. And sometimes that's not what's most important to somebody. It may be that they're a young mom with little kids and they're having to go through treatment, and maybe they're divorced, so they're having to balance all these different factors. Or there's somebody who's a sandwich generation. They're caring for their parents and they're caring for their children. There are any number of factors that we are now able to help meet in a cancer mentoring situation. And it's confidential. It's one-to-one. So unless there's some concern for harm to themselves or the other person, the conversations are between our peer mentors and those they are supporting. And we'll get to the importance of training later on, because that's a key part of the importance of it's keeping it confidential, but also knowing what to say and what not to say. And this is just, I won't go through all the details, but it's an image that will help you. And if this is being taped, you can take a look, or I'm happy to share the image with you. What the peer mentor's role is, which is to be an empathic sounding board for the other person, not to give advice, definitely no medical advice, but to be there as a sounding board to empower that other person as they come to those situations and one by one to make decisions, to vent, to get all the feelings out so that they can come to a place where they are emotionally and psychologically better able to make decisions. And the immediate impact can be decreased anxiety, decreased isolation, and then long-term includes a lot of benefits, including becoming a better self-advocate for yourself and your health care, improved behaviors, and also decreased hospitalizations and decreased financial burden. And here again, some feedback that we've received from people we've provided support to. My Friend for Life is one of the reasons I made it through. Information from someone who has experienced cancer and cancer treatment is often much more helpful than what you can read on the internet or in pamphlets. And what's on the internet, well, some of it, is very useful, and what's in pamphlets can be very useful, but it's not tailored. It's there for everybody. It's there for a wide swath of people, but it's not going to be able to answer your individual questions as somebody facing cancer or as a cancer caregiver. So this is where peer mentoring can go one step further. And again, there's impact on the whole family. My whole family is grateful for her. So benefits not only the patient, but the caregivers. Even if the person receiving support is just one person, the benefit goes throughout, impacts the loved ones as well. So I mentioned special populations. So those are people for whom there are additional barriers to getting care. And that can be, that's a wide range of individuals. They can be people who are homeless, people who are homebound, people who have very low literacy. We have people who are living in very remote areas, and people who are incarcerated. We have matched several people actually who are in jail for the rest of their lives, who nonetheless are diagnosed with cancer and facing treatment. So flexibility is definitely a part of managing a one-to-one peer mentoring network. So what are some of the benefits? And here again, we've got some research that shows that frequent, affirming, and pleasant contact from a peer supporter has been especially helpful to those experiencing social isolation and emotional distress. Some of the people that contact us for support have no support whatsoever. They may have family, but they're estranged. Some people have just moved to a place and they have no friends, no support system. So contacting somebody over the phone reduces their isolation and improves contact and a sense of hope. And Friend for Life is located in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, which, as Dr. Mark Evers, who's the director of the UK Markey Cancer Center in Lexington, says, Kentucky has the unfortunate distinction of being #1 in the country for overall cancer incidence and mortality, and that's for all types of cancer. So we have a big challenge, and this is a personal challenge for me and for our organization, that we do a much better job of supporting the folks throughout our state who are isolated, who a number of our people, especially in eastern Kentucky, Appalachian areas, where they may have to, it may take them 2 to 3 hours to get to their treatment, much less have access to a support group. So for these folks, and they may not have dependable transportation, a number of them do not. So those are huge barriers. And on top of that, just all the emotional components that go with dealing with cancer. So that's one of our personal missions, but that varies from area to area, and there are just a number of, quote, special populations. But this is an example that it can work. This woman, this is written by the aunt of a woman to whom we provided support. She lived in Jackson County, Kentucky, which is one of the smallest, poorest counties in Kentucky. And Kentucky has a lot of counties. My aunt has lived in the same county all her life and has not been exposed to much of the world. I was not sure how she would respond to this, but she has greatly appreciated it, and it's been a huge part of her recovery. This woman had never married, never had children, was very isolated in a sense, and really formed a bond with the volunteer that she was matched with. So their happy news is that there are benefits to peer mentors. This is one of our long-term volunteers, Elaine. She's a survivor of cholangiocarcinoma, lives in California. It doesn't matter where you live. You can volunteer with us or with Survivor Journeys. And there again, the research component, cancer survivors who help others face treatment experience a range of psychosocial and health-related benefits as a result of peer helping. So it helps the helpers. And this is something that was a happy learning experience for me, because some years ago, we've for a long time requested feedback from people we support, but then we started requesting feedback about the volunteer experience. So asked our peer mentors, and quite frankly, I was expecting people to say, well, it's really great. I feel like it's meaningful, but it also brings up fears of recurrence, and it takes me back to a time that was really emotionally difficult for me. It's not what I heard. I heard that people felt like they got more than they gave, that they wish they could support more people. So this has been really rewarding feedback to receive. And just some comments that we received from our peer mentors. My association with Friend for Life is one of the most satisfying things I've ever done. And this is from Brenda, not long before she died of metastatic breast cancer. And that means a lot. And this is actually a quote from Elaine that you saw just a couple of slides ago. I'm glad that I volunteer for Friend for Life. It is one of the things that gives my cancer journey a sense of purpose. And the sense of purpose is a really big part, I think, of this sense of satisfaction that comes from being a peer mentor and helping others. So, Dr. McDreamy there. There are also benefits for providers. So this really wasn't one of the descriptions of this segment, but if you're going to be a nonprofit like Survivor Journeys and Friend for Life, you need to convince medical professionals and institutional folks that there are real benefits to patients and caregivers. And this is a quote not from Dr. McDreamy, but from another physician, that the peer support program has made my life easier. I can focus on being a doctor. So research has shown that peer support complements, and actually this is just an important piece because I know in my earlier days with the organization, you had to convince physicians that you weren't going to mess with their patients. You weren't going to come in and suggest that they go to another doctor or give them medical advice. I see less and less of that now, fortunately, but it's important to emphasize that peer support is not there to replace any other role. We're there to complement and help support people. There's a huge burden on clinicians right now to provide support. And if we can take a piece of that and ease that burden on clinicians, then it's a win-win-win for everyone. And speaking of win-win, so these are the benefits for patients and caregivers: relieving anxiety and depression, reducing isolation, improving coping and adherence. For peer mentors, it improves self-efficacy, satisfaction, self-esteem, and that sense of purpose. For the medical team, it reduces unnecessary care and time commitment, improves communication between patients and caregivers and clinicians, and accomplishes, you have overall improved patient satisfaction. So if you are a physician, an oncologist, and you refer your patients for psychosocial support to a peer mentor organization, to a support group, whatever, they're going to think better of you because you recognize this isn't just about the clinical care you're going through, that this is an experience that impacts your entire being. So that the fact that your oncologist recognizes that has been shown to improve satisfaction, whether or not you actually take on that resource. And then benefits to the overall healthcare system, reduce morbidity and reduce disparities. It reaches more people in hard-to-reach areas. And there is an overall cost savings. There was a study done of peer support that was actually held in a general health clinic, and they had people who were there to kind of just talk to and listen to the people who were in there for care, and that succeeded in reducing anxiety and depression, so they expanded that program to all of the care centers in that area, and that was, I believe, in Colorado. So finally, why is training and support of peer mentors important? And these are some scenes that some of our recent graduates. We have both live training once a year and online training, which is ongoing. So why is it essential? So to ensure that the peer mentor understands their role, which is to listen, not to advise. To know their own personal limits and to set boundaries. One very simple example is it okay to call you at 3 in the morning if your if your mentee is freaking out. If it is, great. If it's not, let that person know. You need to set boundaries. And just it's as simple as saying, if you call me at 3 in the morning, I am not going to be of any help whatsoever to you. However, what you can do is write me an email, and as soon as I'm up, I will respond to that. Just be clear to take care of yourself and to be fair and clear with the person you're supporting. Self-care. You've got to take care of yourself before you take care of somebody else. And it's important to know what to do when the person's needs are beyond your role as a peer mentor. So that can be where they have additional needs, such as financial support. They may have ongoing psychological issues, mental health issues. They may have issues within their family and start coming to you for marital advice. Those are red flags that staff can help you sort through, but the training gives you just some tools and some go-tos for if anything arises that you have challenges facing. And then something's going to happen in this world is there's going to be recurrence and advancing disease. And that can be the person you're supporting, and that can be yourself as a peer mentor. How to handle those situations. Do I continue to support my person and not tell them? Or my person, we have a recent example where one of our newer peer mentors, who is an early breast cancer survivor, early stage breast cancer survivor, was providing support to another woman who had early stage breast cancer. Only then she went back for a visit and found that it had metastasized. So our mentor came and said, so I'm good to go. I've supported a friend in a similar situation, but I don't know what you want me to do, what I should do in this situation. And so we spoke with her and said, we being our two staff, said, are you comfortable? First of all, we would suggest that you let her know that we can match her with one of our women living with metastatic breast cancer. And she did so, and she said, actually, she just wants to stay with me. Is that okay? I'm willing to do that, but I think I need some help. And so we're like, absolutely, you formed a bond with this person, obviously. So what can we do to help you? And so we suggested, and one of the things that we have created recently is a mentor-to-mentor program. So one of our mentors is going through a challenging situation, such as this one. We were able to put her in touch with another mentor who is living with metastatic breast cancer. So she's getting some additional support while she's enabling her to be a better support to her support seeker. It's a lot of words. Anyway, hope that made sense. And then it's really, I feel it's very important to have staff who are trained and experienced, probably particularly in the mental health field, but also in the cancer realm, to provide ongoing guidance and mentoring to our mentors. Any number of things can and do come up in this. And so, and what we like to do is work with our mentors and have them encourage them to learn through the process. So not just say, well, go look up this or whatever, but to work with them so that they learn through this process and can then pass that on to their mentee. So this is just a snapshot of Friend for Life Cancer Support Network. We have around 1,600 inquiries every year, and most of those are requests for peer support. Some of those are people who want to become peer mentors. Some of those are looking for additional resources for support. We have close to 400 peer mentors, all of them trained. And part of the training is our staff of 2 interview every single individual before they become an active peer mentor. We also request that they provide a physician reference and a personal reference. And thank you. It's a thrill to be here from Louisville, Kentucky. So there are some of our folks, and I know we have just a teeny bit of time, but you can always get in touch with me, give me a call, or send me an email if you have any questions whatsoever. We have 2 minutes, so does anybody have any questions? Oh, you, then you. Okay, sorry. That's good, really good question. We are dealing with human beings, but that's one of the things we stress in our training, and we actually provide, we have not only a manual, but a binder full of guidelines and materials. And so there's a confidentiality agreement in there as well. So, but human beings are human beings. But I can say, knock on wood, that over the time I've been with the organization for 20 years, we've not had any concerns. So, and how do you get hooked up? Good question. So there are a number of ways. You can come through our website. We have a place where you can be matched with a volunteer, or that you can become a peer mentor. And then staff receive that, and then we immediately reach back out and connect you. So you can call, you can email. We're on Facebook. We're not on Twitter. Well, we're sort of on Twitter. Yes, we're on Twitter. We're on Instagram as well. So you can call, you can email, you can even fax us. So, anybody else? Yeah, thank you. It is not. We partner, and one thing I should mention is we are part of the Volunteer Management and Cancer Care, which is an organization that covers a span of organizations across the country, many of them comprehensive cancer centers that, work with volunteers who are volunteering within the cancer realm. So they may be in a hospital, but a number of us are peer mentor organizations. And when any one of us is unable to make a close enough match, we connect with those other organizations. So it doesn't matter where you are, because we share a mission of making the closest match possible for that person. So we may reach out to Dana-Farber's program or Survivor Journeys and vice versa. So that's the way we've become national and even international. What's grown our reach is not through any intentional desire to expand our service area, but just it's happened just as an organic process. So, thank you. You first? Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. No. In fact, we kind of expand as technology and the ability to communicate expands. We used to be either in person or over the phone. We've grown to include email, texting, Skype, Facebook messaging. We're kind of open to whatever's going to work best for the person seeking support and their mentor. That's the most important thing. Thank you.